Thank you. It's really good to see you all again. So this keynote is going to be, I'm going to share our vision for the future in some processes of the container terminals. We say that if you want to, if you want to improve overall, you really need to form a vision of the future. And then you have to commit, assign the resources, and then focus and achieve that objective. So in Orbita, we have a think tank, a focus group, where we try to step aside for the logical improvements for our products. I mean, trying to make them faster or more accurate or more cost-effective. And we try to think, what will be the future? What are the things that we can't do today, but we will be able to do in a few years, in midterm, let's say around 5 years. So today, I'll share with you what's our vision for the future for 3 parts of the container terminals. We will focus in the truck accesses, in the STS cranes, and in the IoT projects. Starting with the gates, I remember in last version of the CTAC, which was virtual for obvious reasons, there was an industry experts panel with the participants from TMIC, navies, and AI drivers. And they were talking about retrofitting the brownfield terminals. And they were talking about what is the good place to start if you need to start from zero. They all agree that a good place is to start with the gates. And the reason is because it's a small investment and you have big and early returns. And of course, we agree with that vision. We really think that you need to control what's coming and going through your gates. And that expert panel made us think about what have been the improvements up to now at the gates, and what we think it will be the next improvements that we can achieve at the gates. So it all started with the manual gates. Just a little history. In some terminals in the past, and in some of them still today, the process was completely manual. The truck arrived to a booth where there was a human clerk, and it was asking the truck driver for the driver ID, license plate of the truck, container number, are you coming for a pickup or a drop-off? So the process could take around 5 to 10 minutes. It was slow, it was inefficient, and with high probability of errors. With the years and the investments from the terminals, there were some automation, some improvements. For instance, we have the license plate recognition and the container code recognition, so we get all the information from the container, and that increases the accuracy and reduces the time spent by the truck drivers at the gates. There's also another improvement, which is the kiosks that made the gates an unattended process. If everything is okay, the truck don't need to speak with anybody. And if they need some help, obviously they will have the help from some remote clerks, but just a few clerks to manage all the gates. And the last thing that really help improving the process at the gates currently are the booking systems, the pre-announcements. So if you get most of the information that you need from the truck drivers in advance, then the time spent at the gates for sure is being reduced. And that can be done by the trucking companies in advance, or that can be done by the truck driver itself using its phone. So what's our view for the terminals? What we think it will be done in 5 years? What we think that will happen is we think in the drive-through concept. And the drive-through, it's again, it's an idea, and we have this idea because we think that every process today can be done in movement. In reality, there is no need to stop the truck driver. So we can read the license plate in movement. We can read all the container codes, the ISO code, the IMO placards. We can do the damage detection of the trucks. We can read the RFID even at high speed. So there is no real need. And then with this concept in mind, every time that we are having a new Gates project, we are not trying to automate some processes. We are having this concept in mind, and we are thinking in what are the processes that can't be done in movement. So it's a different thought. Our objective is the drive-through, and then we think in what are the processes that are making impossible. And then we work on them. And of course, there are some concerns. In some terminals, the truck drivers are required to accept the safety regulations at the kiosks. And that's okay, but maybe that can be done in advance. That can be done in the pre-gate or in the booking, or with an app with a digital ID. Or some other terminals, they're required to print the equipment interchange receipt. Because that is mandatory in some countries. But let's really check it, because we have found in some projects that the regulations are not like that. And in some countries, it's enough with a PDF with digital signatures, and that is okay. Or maybe that is necessary today, but it's not necessary in a few years. We all are going fully digital in the end. And maybe some other tracking companies are not able to provide all the information in advance, or are not able to update the information all the time. Well, that's okay. You don't need to start transforming all your gates at the same time. You can just assign a couple of lanes, for instance. I've seen in the past in United States, they started with the express lanes in some intermodal terminals, and they required from the trucking companies some information to have access to those lanes. And that was really interesting, because they started with 2 lanes, but when I come back after a couple of years, they have 6 lanes, because all the trucking companies were interested in that. Nobody wants to spend some time waiting in line. And the rest of the truck drivers waiting in line in the other lanes were saying like, hey, what I need to do to be able to pass through these lanes. As you can see, there is no need for kiosks in the drive-through lanes. So there are savings in the CapEx, and there are also savings in the maintenance, because kiosks need some replacements and maintenance sometimes. So we think that the drive-through concept improves the operational processes, helps also with the satisfaction of the trucking community, and also it's environmental friendly, because if you don't have the trucks waiting in line, the carbon footprint will be reduced. So after the gates, let's talk about the STS cranes. Let's talk about what is our vision for the future in the STS cranes. We are not crane manufacturers, but we are used to provide automation to the STS cranes. So currently, when the operators are doing the handling operations, loading or unloading containers from the vessels, there are a lot of checks that we can do today. We can read all the container numbers again, ISO code. We can see if there is a seal or not, IMO placards, presence, the class. But there is one thing that we are doing at the gates that we cannot do today at the cranes, and that is the automatic damage detection. Today, we can take pictures and we can store them. And if a month later you receive a claim, you can check them. But this is an active system, same as we are doing at the gates. And we think that in the future we will be able to do it. So at the gates, what we are doing is we are adding some scanners that projects a laser beam, and then we receive the echo, and then we know if there is a real damage or no, the severity of the damage, and the type of the damage. But this at the cranes is very difficult today, because the scanners are losing accuracy the further away the object is. So if the container is not close to the beams where we install the scanners, the scanner is losing accuracy, and then that is not enough for us to be sure if there is a damage or not. So So in the future, we think that we will be able to detect the same as we are detecting in the gates. We will be able to detect holes, scratches, also if there is any damage in the corner castings, which is causing problems with operations. And we will send that information with a severity score to the TOS. So our vision is that the scanners manufacturers are doing a really good job. We have seen the progression during these last years. We are used to work with the scanners since 10 years ago. And then we really think that this is very close, and we will be able to do this in midterm, let's say less than 5 years. So last part of my presentation is regarding the IoT projects. There's a lot of names for the IoT projects. We can call Industry 4.0, data collection, fleet management. Obviously, in the end, this is not new. You have heard a lot about these projects also in this conference. We like to divide these kind of projects in 4 main tasks. Collection of the data, storage, the analytics, and also the governance of the information. So in Orbita, we are experts in the first 2 tasks. We are experts collecting the information from all different container handling equipment. We can do that through different industrial protocols. We can do that from different controllers of the machines. We can do that through the existing network of the terminal, LTE, 5G, Wi-Fi. And of course, we can store that locally at the terminal or in the cloud or IoT cloud platform. So regarding the other 2, analysis and governance, there are other companies, experts in data driving and data analytics, like ProDevelop. You have ProDevelop guys in the other side of the wall. There's a booth. But also Inform, Kalman Inside. You have a lot of options to use that information. And with that information, what you can create is really useful and customizable dashboards with information in real time of all the machinery, where is its position, what is the projected movement, the fuel consumption, the tire pressure, a lot of information that you can have at the first sight. And then also you can create good reports, for instance, for operations or for maintenance. Operations may be interested in know that the STS crane, one STS crane is working just 25% of the time. And why is this happening? Maybe because the performance of that STS crane, or it's maybe because the driver, the operator, or maybe it's because there are not enough terminal trucks assigned to that STS. So there are different reasons that can be, with these reports, you can analyze and you can have some interesting thoughts. But the IoT projects are not only just informative projects. There are some other reactive projects. We have experience working in Valencia in one project for, it was called the dynamic lighting, where the terminal, during the evenings and the nights, they decrease the level of the light in the yard up to 30% of the maximum power. So as we knew what was the position of the machinery in real time, it was dynamically increased depending on the position of the machinery. So that was creating some savings in the energy consumption and also reducing the light pollution of the terminal. There's also another example with the eco mode of the terminal trucks. So we know where is all the machinery, and we know that one particular truck is going to the quay to get a container from one particular STS. If we know that STS is busy, there is no need to run to the quay. So the eco mode can be activated dynamically, and then we can reduce up to 30% of the fuel consumption. So these are things that can be done today. Then what we think it will be the future of IoT. The future and also the present, but with more adoption. We think that the predictive maintenance will be a trend, will be something that it will be more used in the terminals. My background, I started working for the automotive industry for 10 years. And in the automotive industry, the predictive maintenance is as common as the preventive maintenance. So predictive maintenance is, definition is a data-driven method to analyze the status of the machinery and recommend or give you a recommendation of when to do a preventive maintenance. So in other words, it will give you a warning to not to use one particular machine because there's a high probability of failure in the next days. The word predictive may sound like something esoteric, something like we are guessing when it will happen, but it is completely the opposite, because this is done using historical data and the equipment usage rather than on estimates. So it is even more exact. A couple of years ago, we participated in an European-funded project because the terminal was interested to know what was the probability of failure of the spreader of an STS after receiving an impact. So we added some G-force sensors to the spreader in different positions to know the severity of the impact and the position, what was the power of the impact and the position. And we also measured what was the speed of the twist locks moving from the open position to closed and vice versa, to add more KPIs to the equation. And with that information and a lot of time, what we got is a prediction of that one particular spreader has an 80% of probability to fail in the next 4 days. And with that information, maybe it's better to bring that spreader to maintenance instead of using it. And one important thing here, as a reminder, is, as I say, this is based in historical data, and we need months of data or even years of data to make a good, accurate prediction. So the message here is that if you want to have a good predictive system in place tomorrow, you need to start collecting data today. It is really important to have as much data stored as possible. And if one of your colleagues sees that there is a database with 3 years of information and they think that this is not necessary anymore, please don't delete the database. It's really, really important. So we really see the potential of the predictive maintenance here also for the container terminals, and we really think that this will be a trend for the future. Thank you.
Brilliant. So we've got around 15 minutes for questions. Are there any initial questions from anybody in the crowd? No, nothing? Okay, we'll get it through on the swap card as well if you're interested in doing it in that way. A couple of my own questions, Rodrigo, if I can. From your perspective, embarking on an IoT project from zero, from that start point, where do you think that a terminal should start and should focus on first?
Well, I think that it's good that you think big, think in adding this kind of IoT projects for the whole terminal, but there is no need. I mean, you can start small. The investment for an IoT project in regards of IT infrastructure, for instance, is not that much, because you don't need any local server. Everything can be done from the cloud. So also from the communications point of view, if you don't have a Wi-Fi at the terminal, of course you can talk with Rachel, which is here, but there are also other options, like you can have 5G. Currently there are M2M plans, really cheap for each machine, and then you can start just with a few machines. You can start with a pilot. There is no need, if you have 200 machines, there is no need to start with all 200 machines at the same time. You can just prepare a pilot, one type of machine, and then start collecting information. And with that information, you can see if that is useful for you, or you need even more information, define the pilot, iterate it, and once you are comfortable with those 5 machines, then you can expand to the rest of the terminal. So it's good because you can think big, you can think in having all the terminal with these kind of systems, but you can start really small with a small investment.
One of the interesting elements of your presentation, you spoke about automatic damage detection using scanners through your technology. Other companies are using imagery through pictures for damage detection. What is your opinion of the pros and cons and the different properties of that kind of detection?
I really think that will work too. I mean, damage detection, if I'm not wrong, what they are doing is that they are training on artificial intelligence with millions of pictures. So they are just saying that this picture has a damage, here this is the damage, and this is the severity of the damage or the type of the damage. And they are training, again, if I'm not wrong, they are training an artificial intelligence with that. That should work too. That's I mean, the good thing about the artificial intelligence is that you can, again, iterate it, and you can make it better with another set of 1 million pictures and another set. And in the end, the artificial intelligence will be really, really clever and will tell you. We choose to use the scanners because our R&D department, they think that it's good to have that third dimension. It's good to know the deep of the damage because there are some, in our opinion, there could be some confusions, and it's good to have the third dimension to know if there is a real hole or a real scratch. But definitely training a good artificial vision, that will help also. Yeah.
And obviously you mentioned in the near future that predictive maintenance element to containers. When do you think that might become a full-fledged reality for all terminal operators? And what is needed to get to that point? Is it a technology change? Is it a culture change? What's your opinion on that?
Well, not sure exactly about what are they missing and what about the technology. I think that's a matter of time. I mean, it's a must, and it will happen. And maybe some terminals are not as proactive as there are others, or some big groups are more used to this kind of transformation. But I think that in the end, all of the terminals will have to go through this transformation, because that is happening to the terminal next of you, and then you have to follow, and you have to also modernize your terminal too. So, yep, I think it's just a matter of time, and all of them will go through this.
Any other questions? Anybody? Anything? No? None at all? No problem.
Sure, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, there you go, right in the middle. Go ahead.
Thanks. One question about the errors or maybe damage control on the containers. What is the rate of error recognition during this process? Because the artificial intelligence and machine learning is a really very long and complex process. So if you're kind of implementing these technologies into the terminal, how much, again, it depends on time, and how much information and time it requires to be sure that your system provided the accurate information that a terminal can work with?
The good thing about this system is that we are relying on physical signals. We are getting the information from the scanner, and we are not comparing with a database of information. So we are analyzing each container independently. So that is the good thing. And then start from the moment that we have the scanners in place, because we have the experience doing this for the gates. From the moment that we have the scanners in place, we can start recognizing the damages. We don't need to have a database of pictures in the past, so we are used to, and that will give you the result immediately. I have to say that currently we are asking the terminals to confirm the damage. I mean, this is an active system that will give you a warning. We think that there is a damage in this container. We will provide to you the picture. We will tell you, here we think it's a damage, we assume. And then it's up to the clerk to confirm if it's real damage or not. The system can work totally autonomous, but today it is better just to confirm. But the good thing is that it's active. So you don't need to wait a month after you receive a claim and then check the pictures and see if there is a picture that is clear, if there is a damage or not. It's an active system. We will stop in the gates. We are stopping the truck. We are not opening the last barrier. We are asking the clerk to confirm if there is a damage or not. So the learning curve, from the commissioning to the go live, this is really quick for the scanners. Welcome.
Do we have any further questions? Anybody? No? Just one final one from me, Rodrigo. You spoke about your think tank at the start of your presentation. What other topics can you share, and what's your real read on the wider industry from Orbita's perspective moving forward?
Oh, it's a top secret. I can tell you that we are really interested in the vertical storage. I mean, the space of the terminals is limited in land, obviously, unless you are creating more space by the sea. But the space is really short at the terminals. So terminals are densifying a lot. And the only thing that they can do today is to increase in the vertical space. But obviously, you cannot grow your yard up to a 7 tier or 8 because all the machines, they have a limit, and also the algorithms, or you will have to wait a lot of movements to get your container. So we are really interested in new innovative ideas. For sure, box bay is a really good idea. There are some others, but what I can tell you is that in our focus group, we are really interested in new innovative ideas for the vertical storage, and we think that's a real problem today, and it will become a problem in the future. So we are trying to add some value in that part too.
Brilliant. Well, reach out to Rodrigo today or tomorrow. Are you here tomorrow?
I'll be here tomorrow.
I'll be here tomorrow as well. Please reach out to him to discuss that further. Please give it up for Rodrigo, everybody.
Yeah.